question. So Amanda, I'm going to ask you the same thing. What are your top two movies of all time?
I love Disney, so I would
Okay.
definitely say Aladdin. Aladdin is
Okay.
definitely the
Aladdin
top.
OG Aladdin or the new Aladdin? Which one are we talking about here?
Probably OG, but I'm
Okay.
not throwing any shade on the new one because the new one was fantastic,
Okay.
and I think Will Smith did great. So, but yeah, and then I also love history as well. So, 1917 was a spectacular movie, and if you haven't seen it,
I
you should
gotta
watch
see
it.
it. I gotta see it. I gotta
Yeah,
see it. Amazing,
yeah.
amazing. And listen, guys, this as you would have noticed with any of our live channels, I usually have a little bit of banter with our guests, and I love finding out what movies they watch. And we have Amanda Zach here from Saskatoon, Saskatchewan, to tell us her story. And we're gonna talk about wedding, portrait, lifestyle photography, but also specifically what she's doing. It's really cool. I'm not gonna steal the thunder. So, Amanda, how are you doing? And tell us a little bit about what you do and what you capture.
I'm good. I'm good. I'm sure everyone is kind of everyone's changed their focus a little bit since this whole COVID-19 pandemic has started. But yeah, no, things are good. I and because of it, I started a project in Saskatoon here. It was based off of a photographer in Boston, actually, and it was called the Front Steps Project. And yeah, so I've just been going to, I've hit over 35 families now.
Wow.
And I just go to their home and just walk out of my car and just stand on the sidewalk there, a nice 7 to 10 feet distance, and capture history, and capture this moment in time, and in history for each of these families that hasn't been maybe necessarily the happiest of times, but I've seen such joy while doing it with these families. So
It's such a unique thing to do, and it's also done in such a beautiful way. And one of the things that stood out is you're maintaining the social distancing guidelines. You're making sure everyone is safe, but you're also looking to sort of share the story a little bit and really get to know the people that you're talking to. And it's almost a communal experience that previously a portrait session may not have that much tied to it. What's given you the most gratification having started this project?
oh man, there's so many. Definitely hearing some of the stories
Right.
that come across while shooting these front step and porch sessions. I hear everything from moms thanking me for giving them a reason to get up and shower and put makeup on and feel themselves again. That's a really big one. But also just an activity to look forward to that day,
Hmm.
which is huge for people who are being, following the guidelines and staying home, as we all should. And so that's been really fulfilling for me. And just to see the response from not only the people that I'm photographing, but the community as well. I've had so many random messages and thank yous, and so that's been really great. But it's also been hearing some heart wrenching stories too.
Mm.
I've photographed some older couples, and one of them had said to me because I asked them, what's been the most challenging throughout this process, and she's like, the woman said to me, I have a grandchild who was just recently born and is growing, and I can't go and
Wow.
see him. Wow. So it's stories like that. But then me being there and almost having somebody to talk to for that short amount of time is also very gratifying for them as well, and kind of brings a smile to their face. So
Yeah, and just going off of that story alone, a picture has such a powerful effect. And the photographer John Free, he's a street photographer. He talks about it as well. Is that for that grandmother or that aunt or uncle or whoever it may be, having a picture of their niece, nephew, granddaughter, grandson, whatever it may be, it's like having them with them every single day to
yeah.
have that print. So, in times like this, especially a photograph, a printed photograph, goes such a long way. And listen, I want to kind of double back and talk about the story more, but, we are going to talk about you. I want to know about how you got into this. So you are a wedding, portrait, and lifestyle photographer. When did you get started? When did this become an official thing for you? When did you start actually going into this and looking at it as a business?
I would say around February of 2018 is when I kind of made it official. I've been taking pictures for close friends and family before that, and I've also probably been taking photographs ever since I was in middle school. But I made it official kind of in February of 2018 after some response in regards to some images and just saying like, hey, maybe you should make a go of this. And I really enjoyed it.
Right.
Photography is something that, I have a full-time job and then I also do photography on the side. And it's honestly a hobby that I have the pleasure of, also making an income off of as well. But I really enjoyed it and I loved it. So I decided to kind of make a go of it. And then, so for the first year, I just did families and couples. And all portrait stuff. And then I was asked if I would ever do a wedding. And at first I was just like, no, definitely not. There is no way you are going to put me, not front and center, but, capturing.
There's a lot of pressure and there's a lot of responsibility that comes with that, right?
Oh, yeah, exactly. And I was just like, I didn't want any part of it. And then I started kind of, doing some more research and I was just like, maybe I should try it. And my husband, was so supportive and the entire, when I kind of started, he was just like, no, you should really look into weddings. Like, I think you'd be really good at it. Cause I loved couples is my favorite thing to shoot. Out of everything, couples is definitely my favorite thing. So a wedding would make sense. Right. So I put it out there that I was going to, do a summer of weddings, and I sold out my first wedding season in like 3.5 weeks.
Wow.
So the response was very overwhelming, and I felt.
So did that come with a level of? I don't want to say fear, but did it seem a little bit daunting that the first time you're going up to this thing, you suddenly get this huge response? Did you feel? And I don't want to put words in your mouth, but did you feel unprepared? And how do you sort of manage those emotions?
Oh man, the first wedding I did, I took my brother with me because I needed that support. Okay. I was on the outside, I probably looked, I hope I did. I looked super professional. I looked like I knew what I was doing, but on the inside, I was dying. Like I was a wreck. I was a wreck. The night before I was a wreck. That morning I was a wreck. But I got through it and I delivered the images and they loved them.
Amazing.
And it just kind of grew from there. Yeah.
Yeah, that's amazing. And so as you started to navigate the space and get more into wedding photography, I imagine that you learned to manage these emotions a little bit better and, get more comfortable with it. What were some of the early struggles you had, starting this career and starting this little business for yourself?
I would say some of the starting struggles were definitely the pressures of the photography community here. It's fairly cutthroat and, so that was definitely a factor. You always compare, unfortunately, I always compared myself to other photographers as well. So that was definitely a struggle too. I'm very grateful and happy to say that I've never had a lack of business. So I don't know if that's because, with social media becoming so important and apparent in our society now, that the need for photographers has grown substantially, and I've definitely benefited from that. But I also, when I started out doing weddings, I was priced at a certain point that showcased, my experience, right? And so I really think the reason why I sold out as quickly as I did was because I was hitting a niche market that wasn't being met in Saskatoon. And so you have, your top tier photographers in regards to price. Right. Then you have your really low pricing. which you can see the quality difference. But there was no one that was in the middle that was like just above the lowest, but the
Right.
quality was there. And I felt
Right.
that that's where work was, and that's why I sold out so quickly.
So, what did you do to sort of refine your work? You did portraits for a long, long time, and you really enjoyed that style of work. Shooting couples, you really enjoyed. As you looked at weddings and to differentiate your business, especially from that lower tier, what were some of the things? Was it gear, or was it technique, or was it lighting? What were some of the key things that you felt that you invested your time and energy in that made that difference that people want to invest in?
The platform we're on right now, YouTube.
No
You know
way.
what? We live in a generation and a time where you can learn anything online. Like
Yeah.
you really can. And so you can take what you learn online and those skills, and you can, export them into action, and you can kind of like play around. So honestly, it was researching, it was YouTube, it was watching other photographers, online. I did take a course here in Saskatoon through another photo store,
Hmm.
and the teacher had actually done some photography for National Geographic. So I had taken a course through him, and then every year after that, I always made sure I kind of did some type of photography course to kind of like update myself. But
Wow.
honestly, it was practice. It was researching on my own. It was, you know, yeah, like I said before, YouTube, and learning from the internet is
Yeah.
is basically is basically where I learned. And then I also just think that my passion for photography and for the images is it has also helped as well.
Gotcha, gotcha. And listen, Henry's, we're here. Our head office is in Toronto. We have stores all across Canada. We don't have one in Saskatoon, not yet. But Henry's.com is nationwide. You can access Henry's.com from anywhere. But I got to ask you, listen, out of a big city like ours, people might wonder, is there enough business in Saskatoon? And, I also wonder, maybe your success is because you're really hitting a niche market in Saskatoon. So, which is it? Is there enough business? Is it tough to find business? Like, what has a story been for you working at a city like that?
You know what? Honestly, I have never felt lack of business here. I
Hmm.
never have. I not only photograph in Saskatoon, but I also travel, just outside
Yeah.
into other cities as well in Saskatchewan. So that's been great too for business. But honestly, yeah, I have never felt I've never felt the lack of business here, which is great. And I think too, um, you know, with influencers and home businesses, that's really helped as well. For myself. But yeah, I've never felt a lack of business here in
Nice,
Saskatoon.
because I mean, sometimes it might be the cliche thing, whereas if you really want to make it, you should go to a bigger city with more people, because obviously that's the answer. And really, simply, it's not the case, right? You can really find yourself a thriving business in your hometown if you
Yeah.
really set your mind to it. I got to talk to you about sort of your process around this. So, I don't want to make this a gear talk, the entire thing, but what's the gear that you rely on to capture the shots that you're looking to capture?
Well, I shoot Canon,
Hmm.
and I honestly I love my Nifty 50.
Nice.
I do a lot of shooting, and then I have a wide lens as well, and then a longer lens for capturing those moments at weddings where you need to get nice and close, but you can't physically.
Right, right, right.
75 millimeter, and it kind of goes from there. So those are probably my top
And,
two for weddings.
And how long is your sort of post processing? How long does that take? How much time do you spend editing these images? Because one thing with event photographers is that can make or break your overall business, because the time you spend on each and every single image, it adds up, right? And you scale that to how much you need to edit and how many clients you have. It can quickly go out of control. So how do you manage all of that?
Yeah, so I shoot about 12 weddings per summer.
Hmm.
So I definitely don't have the volume that the full-time photographers here, I'm sure, have. So my turnaround time is about 6 to 8 weeks.
Oh wow.
Oh, wow. And so, which I get that response every single time.
Yeah.
So I don't know if that's, in for photographers in larger centers such as, Toronto or Vancouver, that might be considered very fast. But yeah, so about 6 to 8 weeks. And I always do this thing for my couples. And this is kind of a little tip that, other photographers watching this could do that, my clients have just loved. I always go home after a wedding and I edit at least 2 to 4 images right away. And I send them to
Why
send it
is
to
that?
them
Why do you do that?
because why do I do that? Because I remember when I got married, um, I wish I woke up with a photo to post on my social media from that
Oh,
day that
okay.
was taken by my photographer.
Right, 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 right.
So
And I imagine that especially in this digital age where every guest has a phone and they're posting and they're sharing, it's nice for the couple to have something that's done by a professional that they can then share. That's that they only have, that really stands above all those cell phone pictures, I guess, in a way too, right?
yeah, totally, totally. And like I have gotten so many compliments on just that one little thing. And like that takes me,
Yeah.
maybe 40 minutes or half an hour when I get home from the day. And so yeah, that's just a little
I mean,
tidbit
listen,
on.
anyone watching this, whether you're watching live or you're watching after the fact, that is an expert tip right there. I mean, that's one of those, it's a great gesture. It feels great for the client, but one of those things that, it goes the extra mile and gives you that referral business, right? Where if a bride or groom, they see that, and especially if they don't expect that, it's one of those things when someone asks them, hey, how was that photographer? How was Amanda at your wedding? It's one of those things like, oh, she's amazing. And it's not just, about the numbers with her. It's not just about the contract. It really is, an end-to-end experience, right? Looking
Yeah.
at sort of the landscape now, we're in this COVID-19 situation. How have you sort of faced some challenges, or have you faced any challenges, and how are you sort of navigating this with respect to your business?
Yeah, I think I mean, every year I kind of have a plan in regards to, what I'm wanting to shoot that year,
Hmm.
and what kind of, promos or marathons I'm wanting to do. Um, Fall is very popular for families and couples, so I usually kind of do like a fall mini thing. And then summers are completely saturated with weddings. I would say my wedding clients are the ones suffering the most right now due to this pandemic. And my heart breaks for them and goes out to them. This is something that they've planned for over a year. And, I think the most heartbreaking part is not only the potential of it being postponed, but also the fact that now their day might not look how they had envisioned.
Right,
Um,
right.
so I've reached out to a couple of them, the ones that are kind of early in the season, or else they've reached out to me, and no one has said for sure that they're canceling right now, but it's definitely in the back of their minds, and some of them also might just change. Change the party date. So they'll actually still get married this year,
Right, right.
but they'll just have the party next year. And actually, 2 weekends ago, I drove past a park here, and there was a couple getting married,
Wow.
and it was literally just the two of them, the person marrying them, and then one on either side.
Wow.
So yeah, I would say probably my wedding clientele are the ones suffering the most right
Yeah,
now
because
because
oh, no, no, go ahead, go ahead.
because the other ones haven't been booked yet,
Right.
So in the grand scheme of things, the wedding clients are the ones who are booked already, and so yeah.
Yeah, and I love the authenticity here because it's so easy to think about your business and how your revenue is being impacted and the struggles you're having, but you're thinking about how much more struggle it is for the client, right? That they've put not just the photography deposits, but like their hall, the guests, the food, the DJ, whatever, all those things. They put so much time and effort, and it again that special day that they've been looking forward to their entire life.
Right.
It's an immense amount of stress to deal with. I'm so glad you brought that up, right? And it's great that, you know, you're reaching out to them and speaking to them with that sort of humility. As you sort of kind of move forward from this, how do you see your creative business changing or adapting to these conditions? Do you look at sort of what you owe to your clients and what you want to capture a little bit differently with what's going on?
Yeah, I think that's a great question. I think I'm kind of at the stage with everybody else where it's just the future is so unknown.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and I mean, I'll always make sure that I'm practicing social distancing. But yeah, I don't know. It's so hard to say
Yeah.
um, how things are going to change in the future. Yeah, I'm not sure.
Yeah, yeah,
It's
it is difficult because I mean, it seems like the news is changing day to day as well, and guidelines are changing, you know, as they come out, and people's expectations are changing as well, right? But and listen, the reason I asked that is because you actually did something in the midst of all this, right? Where you decided that you wanted to tell stories, you still want to document, you still want to do what you love, and you looked at sort of the rules, and really that's the social distancing guidelines, and wanted to find out a way how can you practice what you love within this. So tell us
yeah.
about you picking up your camera and getting started with your initiative.
hmm I think that there's so much background on that because photography isn't it's not just you know a business for me or an income. It's also something that um, that feeds my soul and it
Right,
makes
right.
me happy. And it you know everyone has a hobby, you know, and so photography is mine, and it brings me joy. And so during this time, you know, I kind of thought to myself, like, wow, what I love doing the most besides spending time with my family is potentially being taken away because of this whole, you know, COVID-19 stuff. So I also saw the struggle within my, you know, my group of friends and, you know, certain family members, how down they were feeling in regards to um, being, you know, having to stay home. So I had a
Mm.
friend actually forward me the original article from the photographer in Boston and said, hey, like, what do you think of this? So I read it and I was like, wow, that's amazing. Like, you know, to be able to bring, you know, a little bit of happiness and joy to people's homes as well as documenting history,
Right.
which is exactly is what we're doing right now. These are images that, you know, they're going to be showing their kids and their grandkids and you know telling of the time where we were you know essentially forced to stay home with our loved ones and spend time
Yeah.
with them. And these are images that I know are going to come back in 20 years and 30 years and 50 years. And so that was really important to me. And I'm not interested in taking pictures of your hair in a perfect, you know, position or your outfit in a
Hmm.
perfect position. Like this is history we're documenting here.
Right.
And so and it's also, you know, something that you know, moms were thanking me for being able to have a reason to get up and put their makeup on and their you know their favorite clothes and feel themselves again. And you know, kids were excited to see somebody that wasn't their parents, and
Yeah,
you
yeah,
know,
yeah.
so there was all kinds of you know positive things that came from it. And then the local newspaper kind of picked up on it as well, and so it just kind of blew up from there. And now I'm at 35 35 plus families, and I'm going out again this
Wow.
weekend. So,
Wow. And you know,
yeah.
that's how we found out. You know, it came across our email threads and we saw that article. What was it, the Phoenix Star or the
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. We saw the article there that where you were featured, and it was such a great story above all else, right? That someone has decided to pick up their camera and within these guidelines go out and document, but also give value back to their community, right? Where, you know, so much of us are locked in and adhering to this, and that's allowing us to be successful in sort of curbing this thing. But, you know, for you to go and do that, it's a remarkable thing. Has the you know, has everyone sort of welcomed this with open arms? Has there been any friction or any obstacles along the way? How's the process been?
Yeah, I would say there's definitely been some friction.
Okay.
The photography community here, they've definitely not been all on board in regards to the Front Steps project. But I hope that, they people that are, giving that backlash towards it, I hope they realize and they know that there is the social distancing that is being practiced 100%. The families and couples are instructed that you are to keep your distance and to stay, on your front step or front house area. And I am keeping that sometimes even 10 feet distance. And then it's literally 5 minutes and then I'm gone. And the only surfaces I'm touching is my own camera. But there's definitely been some friction in regards to the project.
Interesting. And I imagine that just comes from maybe a lack of the understanding the process and the actual, safety precautions that are being taken place as you look to capture these things. People are just seeing the end result and assuming, however it's being done.
Right. Yeah, totally.
Gotcha. From these, experiences, has there been something that you've learned about your craft and your photography along the way? Has your perspective kind of changed through this project and this initiative?
It's interesting because I was thinking about that the other day, and I think it's so important as photographers to, because I still deem myself as a beginner. I think it'll be a long road before I I kind of view myself in that higher class of photography. But it is so important to always pick up your camera and take pictures. I mean, that's kind of like where my soul was being fed in regards to the Front Steps project. Being able to continually pick up my camera, even though we're technically not doing any business. But also, I've learned through this process how much of my heart really goes into photography because, all like the Front Steps project is, a pro bono or complimentary session. And I've had some people reach out in regards to donating to a charity. But yeah, I would say through it all, like I've just learned how much passion I really do have behind my craft. And I'm so grateful for that.
It's a remarkable story, and one that when we read it around, well, I guess not the office, but the home office, when we started reading this thing, we were texting each other. It was such a fantastic story. And listen, Amanda, thank you so much for your time and agreeing to join us here. And for those of you watching, we do the live stream 30 minutes on YouTube, but then we jump on Instagram Live where you guys can join us and ask questions as well. So that's what we're gonna do. We wrapped up here. Thank you again. Before we go, where can people find your work and see more of your work?
On Instagram, my handle is azphotographyYXC, and then on Facebook as well. You can just go www.facebook.com/azphotographyYXC.
Amazing. Thank you so much for your time. And guys, please do follow her on Instagram or Facebook. And if you're in the Saskatoon area, shoot her a DM and get in touch and support this initiative. Thank you so much, Amanda. We're going to jump over to Instagram and we'll talk again there.
Okay, thank you.